Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are plunging headfirst into a headline that, well, it recently just exploded across social media news feeds. Operation Sindoor. You know, what happens when two nuclear powers lock eyes across a tense border, and a name like Operation Sindoor suddenly starts trending everywhere? Was it a real military escalation, or maybe something else entirely, perhaps? Psychological warfare. Our mission today is to unpack the facts, the speculation, and, the deeper story behind this really fascinating trending headline. We'll dissect the sources you've shared to guide you, the listener, to what's truly important here. So let's unpack this. The phrase Operation Sindoor, it really began trending like wildfire. The origin seems to be from Indian media circles, reportedly. The claim, a precision airstrike mission by the Indian Air Force, supposedly targeting terror infrastructure right along the Pakistan border. It was portrayed as swift, tactical, and incredibly successful, a real show of strength wrapped in this kind of patriotic energy. So, okay, if it was such a successful show of strength, why would the Indian government not immediately claim it? That seems, well, counterintuitive to all that patriotic fervor, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And that's precisely where this gets genuinely interesting, I think. Despite that huge initial media frenzy, there's this crucial caveat. A striking lack of any official acknowledgement from the Indian government. Like nothing. No video evidence, no visuals, no official statements confirming anything at all. The only indicators were this intense media buzz and maybe a few cryptic social media hints from, certain defense journalists and influencers. So this really raises an important question for you to consider. In all this, was it real? Was it maybe a deliberate leak designed to test the waters? Or was it something else entirely, something that primarily unfolded just in the digital sphere?
Right. And naturally, Pakistan didn't stay silent when faced with all this. The Pakistani military very swiftly denied any airspace violations or any cross-border strikes. They called the reports fabricated and, quite pointedly, an attempt to generate war hysteria. But wouldn't a disinformation campaign like that risk being exposed and backfiring, especially if, nothing physical actually happened? What's the strategic upside there for whoever started it?
That's a really great question, actually, because it points straight to the complexity here. Official ISPR statements, that's the Pakistani military's public relations wing. Of course, they immediately downplayed the whole narrative.
Yeah.
They suggested it was part of a bigger disinformation campaign, specifically aimed, perhaps, at manipulating public opinion before the upcoming elections in India. However, if we connect this to the bigger picture, some Pakistani analysts offered a more nuanced perspective. They suggested that even if no physical airstrike occurred, the sudden surge in coverage itself, that could be part of psychological operations. Like a pressure tactic, maybe, designed to provoke a reaction, or perhaps just to measure Pakistan's preparedness. It's about, sending a signal without actually firing a shot.
And you could really see the impact on the public, couldn't you? Behind the scenes, Pakistani social media just exploded with searches like, what is Operation Sindoor? India-Pakistan war latest. And that really intriguing one, Rafale versus JF-17. These searches, they aren't just revealing public curiosity, right? They vividly demonstrate how quickly a digitally propagated narrative, even if it's totally unconfirmed, can tap into these deep-seated national anxieties and trigger widespread public discourse. It effectively turns a rumor into a societal event. And that brings us to the core question. How did an unconfirmed story manage to grab so much public attention so fast?
That's precisely what's so striking here, just how quickly and virally this entire incident spread, especially given the complete absence of any official confirmation. It's really a testament to the sheer power of the digital landscape today.
And the media narratives were just so starkly different. On the Indian side, you had channels showing these dramatic fighter jet graphics, flashing breaking news tickers, playing intense, almost patriotic music in the background. It almost sounds like something out of a thriller movie, doesn't it?
It really does.
Meanwhile, on the Pakistani side, you had YouTube channels quickly retaliating with their own counter-narratives. They were warning of Pakistan's robust air defense readiness and, of course, their nuclear deterrence capabilities.
So you see, this wasn't just a military moment, if it was even that. It was distinctly a media battle. And in today's world, media might indeed matter more than missiles when it comes to influencing public perception and, shaping these national narratives.
It really makes you wonder, are we talking about actual defense maneuvers here, or is this truly some kind of masterclass in 5e chess played out within the information space? And if it is, what's the ultimate goal?
It raises these fascinating questions about the very nature of conflict in the digital age we live in.
And the timing itself adds another crucial layer to this whole puzzle. This so-called operation. It wasn't random at all, it seems. India is currently right in the midst of its election season. And that's a time when, strongman tactics, nationalist rhetoric, military pride, that stuff often plays exceptionally well on television and tends to resonate deeply with the public.
And we've certainly seen historical precedents for this sort of thing. Remember the 2019 Balakot airstrikes?
Oh, yeah.
Those happened just weeks before the Indian elections back then, and they became a huge talking point in the campaigning. Now, shift to Pakistan's side. With their political transitions still sort of in flux and economic challenges really piling up, any perceived provocation at the border has significant domestic implications. It could potentially unify public sentiment or maybe even distract from other issues. It's complicated.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, trying to make sense of it? Operation Sindoor, whether it was real, whether it was just a name, it arrived at a very specific moment. A moment when both nations are navigating some pretty significant internal complexities. It really suggests a strategic layer beyond simple military action, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So after diving deep into all these different sources, all these perspectives, what can we truly make of Operation Sindoor? Where does that leave us?
Well, ultimately, we may never know the full truth. That's often the case in these situations. This event sits firmly in a kind of gray zone, somewhere between fact, strategic maneuvering, and maybe even outright media manipulation. The sources we looked at suggest various possibilities, right? Maybe jets flew, maybe they didn't. Or perhaps it was simply about sending a message loud and clear, but without a single physical shot actually being fired.
But okay, one thing does seem certain for you watching this unfold. The tension between India and Pakistan, it continues to evolve in these really fascinating and sometimes confusing ways. And the battlefield clearly isn't just on land or in the air anymore.
That's exactly right. The battlefield is also right there in your news feed. It's in your search bar, and ultimately it's in your mind. Because, in the age of trends and viral headlines, truth is very often the first casualty.